Oh guys, today we bring to you a 66 little fastback Mustang. Driving it, noticed that the had some fluid coming down the inside of the driver's side wheel and tire, and then pulled her in here and jacked it up. And what we're going to show you today is how to remove your axles and replace all the seals. So the first thing we did is jack the car up, put jack stands underneath it for safety, and pulled both side wheels off. Okay, so we got a little bit ahead of ourselves before we started this video. I'll show you where we got to. So you pull your rotor off. Okay, and on this forward rear end there is a plate back here, and there's 4 bolts that run in through it. So it comes in from the back side of the plate here and bolts in. Okay, you can see one still here. We've not knocked it out yet. So you'll take these 4 bolts out, okay? And when you do that, one of the things you want to do is chalk a level line, a plumb bob line here. So across the back side of the disc, down the spring, and to the axle itself. And we also did just a secondary mark here, just in case one gets rubbed off. So you'll remove these 4 bolts, okay? And then the axle should actually slide out, okay? Okay, and if you're also wondering how many spline axle you have, because on the Ford smaller rear ends, they make a 28 spline, and I believe it's a 31 spine. So all you do, just get you a starting point. We put a white piece of chalk on here and start counting your splines. So a spline is the little protruding end you see here. So you just count those all the way around till you come back up to this point. And ever how many ribs you count, that's your spline axle. So it's very important when you go ordering parts that you know exactly what rear end you have, okay? Okay, so what we're going to do now is try to clean this up a little bit. We're going to move the whole brake assembly here out of our way. The first thing you want to do is make sure that all your bolts are removed, which we have here. We've taken them all out. When you pull this around, you want to make sure that you don't kink, break, especially if you have some kind of rubber brake line that's dry rotted, or even the metal brake line in this case. You don't want to kink those up. But we do want to get this out of the way so that we can get in here and clean it up a little bit. So what we'll do is just get a hanger, and we'll hang it up and pull it up here out of the way like this here. Okay, so we pulled this up out of the way, put a little bracket here just to keep it pulled up out of the way. So the next thing you want to do is get this seal out. If you look in here on your seal, it should have a part number. And in this case, it's a 13598. So what we're going to do is get a seal puller. You'll just put it in here, push it up, and this seal should pop out. Okay, so we put our little seal puller in here and pulled up on it. The seal popped loose. This little spring come running out, was in behind it here. It's no big deal. But this is the little seal that we're talking about. And then we'll clean all of this stuff up. And then we will actually show you on the axle part here how to replace the bearing as well. Okay guys, so we show you how to get the seal out of the housing. So now what we've done, we've wrapped this the axle up and put it in the vise here. So this little piece here is a keeper. This is your wheel bearing, okay? So what we're going to do actually is we're going to grind this and cut this off, okay? And then we'll knock it off there, and we'll show you the process after that. After we get this wheel bearing cut off, we're going to take a little short trip to town to get the new bearings, keeper, and seal, and then we'll show you how to reassemble, clean all this up, and reassemble everything, okay? Okay guys, so one thing, like I say, we're going to cut across this. What I forgot to tell you is make sure you move this out of the way. You do not want to cut this plate, okay? So keep it out of the way, and you don't want to cut down into your axle itself. So we'll show you in stages how we're doing this. Okay guys, now we've got this part cut through. We're going to spin it around. Be careful. Remember, it's hot. Now we're going to cut through the other half. Okay guys, what we're going to do now, we spun it back around, and there you go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is cut these little ends off. Snip them. Good pair of little snips. Pull it out. Do the same thing to the other side. Okay, we're gonna get the little bearings out now here, and be careful, they will go everywhere. Cut in between each one of these, and that way you only lose one bearing, and the other ones should stay, or possibly stay tied in, maybe. Be careful of sharp ends. There you go. Okay guys, now that we got the bearing off, we're going to cut off this keeper portion, so that way the whole wheel bearing main part and this keeper, we can just slide off the shaft. Now we may have stopped the video. I've got a different type of cutter here. We may have to remove this shield because I don't know that we're going to be able to get in there all the way. Again, do not cut through your axle. Do not cut your plate. Okay guys, now what we've done is we cut through that keeper. Now we're going to put a screwdriver in there and try to spread it out some, okay? So we're going to hit it with a hammer. There you go. And split it. Okay, and then everything else actually should slide off. So you can see how that slides off rather easy. And then the bearing, we'll tap it, and then it should slide off with it, okay? Okay, now we've got the bearing, we cut the bearing. We put a chisel in here and hit it to knock it loose, and now they're both completely out. Okay, just make sure you remember the direction that your plate goes. Take it all off, and then we'll clean this up, and we'll show you how to put the new bearing on. Okay guys, so we went and got a new bearing. It also has the little keeper on it. We've got National here. So we'll just move it up out of the way there. So you should have a whole new bearing. And they are self-sealed. Okay, it's National brand. And then you should have a little keeper as well. All right, so we're going to set up, and then we'll press this thing. Okay, so we got our National wheel bearing and our keeper. Don't matter which way you put these on, but do not forget to put your plate on, okay? Make sure that your direction is proper based on the way you take it apart. In our case, the nipple comes to the outer side of the axle, so we're going to slide it on first. Okay, we're going to put the bearing on. Again, it does not matter which way you put it on, okay? We'll go on, keeper goes on, then we're going to press this into place. All right, so we're going to press the bearing in place. You want to make sure that this does not get in the bind, this plate, okay? We're going to keep going until it's seated all the way down. And it's seated. All right, guys, so we got our wheel bearing and race seal set out. So we actually also have a national brand seal that we're going to put in here. It'll pop in here, and we will use the set to actually drive this in the housing. Okay, so we set the seal up in here a little bit. So you'll make sure that you put this in and it's centered on the metal piece, and then you'll drive it till it's flush from the back side. Do not crush it. Okay, so now we're going to take the rotor and the brake pad assembly, and we're going to put it back in place. And you'll take these bolts here. We're not going to show you for the video today, but you'll take these 4 keeper bolts. The flange comes in from the back side, and you'll have this nut. So we're going to set this in place, put a couple of these in to keep it square, and then we're going to slide this axle in, and we'll show you that when we get this set. Okay, so we pulled the brake housing assembly over here, the rotor, back part of the rotor plate. We put a stud in, caddy cornered there to kind of help us hold this in place. We're going to take the axle now. We're going to slide it in. Be careful not to damage the seal. Okay, if you remember the first of the video here, we put a chalk mark and a chalk mark at top. That way we knew that we were putting it back the same way that it came out. So now we're going to try to carefully slide this in. May take a little bit of work. Make sure the plate is in place. And then now we'll run the other 2 bolts in. Okay, so again, we put the 4 nuts on, studs from the back side. We tighten the plate down. There's 2 here, 2 on this side. Once you got everything in, we sprayed a little bit of brake cleaner in here to clean this out, let it fully evaporate and clean it up just a little bit. We also cleaned out the back side of the drum. And you'll slide this on, put your wheel back on and your lug nuts, and that's how you change a seal and a bearing on a Ford 8-inch rear end.